Hi everyone, welcome along to Busy Bee Budgets. It's lovely to have you. It's cold and it's miserable here in the UK today, but I'm hoping March is going to be the start of spring and we can all start looking forward to some better weather and some bits and pieces. And so in this video I'm just going to talk you through my March budget. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome along. This is my second month of cash stuffing. I started in February, and so this is like the second time I've had to do a budget, and I've made some changes from last month, which I think are good, just from stuff that I've learned and stuff that's important. So I hope you find it interesting. Obviously this isn't like any type of financial advice, this is just me sharing with you what I do, but let's get into it and let's see what March is going to bring for us. So the first thing that I didn't do last month was set a goal for myself for no spend days. And I guess what's different from most people is I think a no spend day for me is just when I don't have any unplanned spending. I think if I'm going grocery shopping or something, I don't kind of view that as a spend day because it's kind of allocated budgets, if that makes sense. So I think I'm just going to play it by ear about how I classify what a no spend day is, but I think I'm going to set myself the goal of 10 no spend days this month, which might be ambitious, but I just want to set a goal and see how we kind of do. So I'm going to aim for 10 no spend days, so that's kind of unnecessary, unplanned expenditure, so it still gives me 21 days in March to spend away, but kind of reduce it. Second thing is something that I didn't do last month was set up into weeks. So I didn't count how many weeks there were in a month, if that makes sense, which obviously makes a difference for how you're going to cash stuff individual envelopes. So I've done that for this month. So I get paid on the 8th of March, and so my weeks are going to run from the 13th to the 20th, the 20th to the 27th, the 27th to the 3rd of April, and then the 3rd to the 10th of April. And then obviously at the end of that week, then that will be my new week for April, but we're kind of already in mid-April by then, but it's just the way that I get paid and the date I get paid and stuff. And what I also did this month, which I didn't do last month, was kind of do the weekly planner, more so I could see what I've got coming up, because I didn't do that last month and I was kind of slightly I didn't think about what I'd actually committed to. So we got a weekend away, for instance, and I hadn't really thought about that in the budget. And I know this is zero-based budgeting and we're supposed to think about what we've got coming up each month and what we're going to commit to. So I've done that for this month, and then I've kind of written out all the presents I need to buy and kind of expenditure, Mother's Day and those types of things. So I've got a much better view going into the month about what I've committed to, and social stuff and those types of things. So that's been really helpful. And that's kind of how I've allocated out my weeks. So let's get into the interesting bit, which is always the money. So I am very fortunate and privileged to have a very good career, and as which my salary reflects that. And I absolutely know what point of privilege I come from to kind of do that. So my take home from my main salary is 5520, and that is fixed. So I know kind of what that's going to be every month. But from April that will be reducing because I'm changing some hours of work. But I don't know what my new figure is going to be, but it's going to be significantly less than that. So part of this budgeting journey was to make sure that I knew where everything was going, and everything was coming in, because up until this point I've been reasonably fortunate that I've not really had to think about it too much, but there we go. And then side hustle I've got a couple of side hustles. So this is a social media side hustle. That's going to bring in £262 in March. That's all confirmed. And then side hustle B is everything else I do. So selling stuff on eBay or Marketplace or any other money that I kind of comes my way, and we'll kind of go into that. And what I do when I do my budget, because I'm really lucky and I have a generous budget to work with, but what I do when I do my budget is I don't take into account any of my side hustle income. I just do it off my base salary, and that just means that I'm not reliant on it. And then I do separate cash stuff for that later in the month once I know what's what and where's where. And also it just gives me a bit of a wiggle room. So the numbers won't quite add up, because basically I just do it off that income, if that makes sense. I don't do it off my side hustle, and I take that into account later. My fixed bills, which are all of my household bills, so that's my mortgage, my gas, my electric, my water, my council tax, my internet, my mobile phones, life insurance, animal insurance, all of that. That comes to £1,300 a month. and that comes out of a separate bills account, so I just transfer an amount over. I've got my gym membership of like £90. I've got various subscriptions to Canva and Netflix and all those types of things. They come to £50 a month. And then I've got a loan, which is to do with my master's degree, that I'm paying back quite aggressively, so that comes to £750. So that all totals £2,200, and that's the money that I leave in the bank. I don't touch that in terms of I don't draw it out to pay it back, if that makes sense. And obviously with some of these sinking funds and the variable, there is a bit of hybrid, so I don't want to keep super amounts of cash in the house. So once these get to a certain amount, I send the money back to the bank, and then just put placeholders in my sinking funds particularly, but I do kind of do that through cash, through my variables. So in terms of, I'm going to cash stuff my sinking funds from my budget in the beginning of week 1, and these are the figures that I've allocated. And then depending on the side hustle cash and what's happened in the month, I'm going to stuff later in the month if I want to. So last month, I think I just had one column, so when I made an additional cash stuff, I didn't have anywhere to put it, so I've changed my tracker this month so that I can reflect that, but then I've budgeted the amounts that I want to put in. So the first is for £1,000, which is my largest sinking fund, which is for financial goals. And part of this journey for me was about being conscious and considered about where my money was going. And that financial goals section is our highest, and that's basically for our future. So that may well be us paying our mortgage off early, it might be an investment property, it might be investing in the stock market, but basically it's our money that we're gonna kind of create our long-term goals with. So that's the biggest sinking fund I do, but that's important to me because that's paying, like, hopefully investing in our future, so that at some point in the not too distant future we can think about financial independence, or we can think about retirement and all those types of things. Second sinking fund is the house, and next month that's getting £500 because I'm having some work done and I need to pay for it, but after March that will reduce down to kind of a more regular amount, but that's something that I'm stuffing heavily this month, last month, and through my side hustles. Carl's going to get 150. Again, I've kind of got a couple of expensive months, so MOT and service is due, and then obviously if there's any work that needs doing, so I'm putting 150 in this month, and then hopefully again that'll be one that will drop off slightly, but good that it's kind of all taken care of. Emergency fund's going to get 100. I already have a separate emergency fund in the bank, and obviously I've got my financial goals money if something horrific happened, but yeah, I'm stuffing £100 into emergency. Christmas is getting 100, so I stuff that for 10 months of the year to give me £1,000 in November. Vets is a new category that I'm adding this month, mainly because I saw other people do it and it made complete sense. So we've got one dog, so we're going to be stuffing £50 a month for her. She is insured, but you know what it's like, excess. It seems to be whatever she has isn't always covered, and all of those bits and pieces. She'll need an annual checkup and those types of things, and she's getting old, bless her. So I'm going to stuff £50 for that, but it might well be that, say, when we get to a certain level, say £300, I might stop stuffing that one. So some of these I just think I'll stuff forever, but that one I think I'm going to set a limit, and then we'll see where we get to, and I might transfer that at some point to a healthcare envelope because I haven't got a sinking fund for for humans glasses and teeth and bits and pieces. So that's that. Travel and experiences is going to get 350 next month. Again, this is like something that I really prioritise. It's what I like to spend my money on in terms of once everything else is taken care of. And yeah, we've got some things kind of coming up that are good to pay for. But this is a category that I can switch up or switch down. So basically, if once we do the April budget and there's not a lot of wiggle room, then that is something I can obviously drop down. That is obviously a real luxury. And I know many people aren't fortunate enough to have that, but for us that's kind of important, so that's why that gets that. Treats, which is a new category I've added, but actually isn't going to get anything from my main cash stuffing. So treats is anything big I want to buy myself, and by big I don't mean like physically big, I just mean expensive. So it might be like a new handbag, or it might be something indulgent that I want to buy for me, but that doesn't kind of fit into any of the other categories. So I'm going to stuff that through savings challenges and side hustle money. And so basically it really is a reward for me for managing everything else properly and any extra income I make. So treats will be in there as a sinking fund, but I'm not going to stuff it from this main budget. And then similarly with clothes, I did start to stuff this last month. I stuffed £50 and then realised I didn't spend any of it. And actually, I'm not someone who buys a huge amount of clothes, and particularly at the moment, because I'm still not really leaving my house that much, and there doesn't seem a real need to. So maybe if the world starts opening up again, or however that happens. So what I've decided with clothes is I would like to be more conscious about what I buy and when I buy it, rather than just seeing something in Sainsbury's or Primark or whatever and just picking it up. So I'm going to turn this into a sinking fund in terms of I have to sell existing clothes I have, of which I have many, to make way for the money and the space for new clothes. So if that makes sense, it will basically be a self-funding fund. If I want to add to it, if I want to buy something, then I need to sell some existing stuff. And that would be really good for me because decluttering and simplification is part of this whole journey, sort of a real interest in minimalism and things. And so by not setting money aside, and meaning that I have to in effect work for it, will be really good. So I'm excited to kind of get going on that and be listing some stuff on eBay or whatever. But those will be my sinking funds, and obviously my white folder is my sinking funds folder. And then the variable, which is kind of the ones that obviously I'm using the most on a day-to-day basis. And also probably the ones that are most, like, I'm sure most of you have some sort of variation of these. So the first one is food. That's going to be getting £100 a week, sorry. So with everything else, I just do that once a month. And then the variable envelopes, I'll do a weekly check-in, see how I'm doing, and also cash stuff for the next week, just so that I am more mindful on it. I think I'm a bit worried that if I stuffed all 400 for food at the beginning of the month, that I'd burn through it quite quickly and then struggle later on. So I think by doing the regular cash stuffing, it just keeps me more mindful of what's coming up, and also makes me more inclined, particularly for some of the smaller ones, to save for it or think about it or reflect on purchases before just buying them. So food, which for me is everything I buy at the supermarket. So that is groceries, cleaning products, toiletries, and the dog's food. So it is high, and I know it's really high compared to some people, but it does cover those extra bits, and probably will remain high because that also covers takeaways. So anything else we want kind of in that. Fuel, I've increased to £70 this month just because obviously fuel is going up, and I found that £50 just wasn't quite enough for me. So I'm going to increase that to 70 and see where we get to. If I start travelling for work a lot, I'll probably be able to expense some, but I haven't quite worked out how often I'm going to be going out for work at the moment. So £70 feels fine. I can always review that. Self-care, which for me is things like massages, haircuts, and I have a skin disorder, so I have some treatments on my face. So that is high again. So that's going to get 150 next month. But I've got one more March payment and then an April payment, and then my course of treatment for my skin rests for the summer, so that will go down over the summer months, just to reflect the skincare procedure that I need to have done. But yeah, we'll see kind of how that goes. But that covers basically everything that's to do with self-care. And that's an area that, like, pre-pandemic I used to spend way more on. So I used to get my nails done, and as you can see by these, I don't anymore. And everyone on these channels has amazing nails, don't they? Like, I really don't, so apologies for that. I used to get false eyelashes put on every couple of weeks, and I don't do that anymore. And I used to have my hair cut and coloured at the hairdressers every month, and I don't do that anymore. I colour it myself now, and I have it cut like every 3 or 4 months. So for me, like, self-care has massively gone down. I appreciate this is still high for a lot of people, but compared to what I used to spend, this is like much, and also a personal trainer as well, and this is much reduced. So I'm really comfortable with that level. Socialising is going to get 100, and that's mainly for like meals out or big, I don't really kind of do nights out anymore, but like, meals particularly, or anything social. Gifts is going to get 190 next month. Like I say, it's a heavy month for me in terms of birthdays and things, and Mother's Day. And that will be one that would reduce from the April budget, but it's just I need to kind of get that up to a decent level at the moment. Miscellaneous, which just covers everything I haven't really thought of which there are lots of things, or just it also gives me a bit of a buffer between some of the other categories. So this month I dipped into it to support social and some other bits and pieces. So when I haven't quite got enough in one of these, the miscellaneous sometimes picks up the slack. But we'll see how we do next month. Now I've added in a couple of extra categories because I think that will kind of be touch less. But anyway, so £50 miscellaneous. spends, which is a new category. And that next month is going to get £60. And that is just for things like if I'm out and I want a cup of coffee, or probably like loads of you, I'm buying loads of budget stuff at the moment. And it's just somewhere that I can, again, pull the money from, just for those small things. So if I wanted a book or something like not massive, but just like things that I want, little treats, that's going to get 60. And again, could be one that I stuff with side hustle money, though I'll probably be more inclined to put that into treats. But we'll kind of see how that goes. And then giving, which is one of my favourite categories actually, is going to get 50 next month as well. So that's for good causes, sponsorships, whatever else. And obviously there's so much that you can give to at the moment. And I've been able to give really well this month because I've kind of had dedicated funds, if that makes sense. So it almost gives me the permission to do it, which has been really positive. So that is kind of how March is looking at the moment. What I'm going to do is obviously wait until I get paid, and then I'll cash stuff on the 8th for that, or around, so the week's beginning the 13th. I like to cash stuff at the weekend. That seems to work really well for me, just because I guess you can kind of sit down and actually spend an hour doing it, not like being hassled with work and stuff, and just also be a bit more mindful about what you've got going on at the weekend and where you want to spend your money. So that for me is working really well at the moment. So I think that's kind of it really. So I'd love to hear what you think about March, your budget, what you're doing differently. Now we're heading into spring, I don't know, does it feel a bit different? Do you need some different categories? It's all good. So thank you so much. Thank you for putting up with my very amateur drawings as well on my budget. I think I'm going to stick to this though and not necessarily get some budget sheets. There are some really good ones out there, but I just think this is working quite well for me. But we will see as we head into April, and obviously my budget's going to look quite different. So it'll be really good to see what that looks like. So thank you for sticking with me. And I hope that you have a lovely day and that your March budget goes well and you get everything that you want. So stay safe and I'll see you soon.